Well, here we are at another reading week, or just another video about what books I've read this week. So let's get started. I've read a few books as usual. The first a book I read so far this week was a book called Bored and Brilliant: How Spacing Out Can Unlock Your Most Productive and Creative Self by Manoj Morodi. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly. It's that her name. Sorry, her name. I know somebody with a similar name. Sorry. Um, this actually goes into detail about how social media and like phones and smartphones pretty much kind of takes over our everyday life. It just talks about and it also talks about how even though we feel bored, we're not actually completely bored. We're more like thinking about other things when we're not like into what we're doing currently. Like sometimes being bored actually unlocks some part of our mind, something more creative. It's usually being bored is not like you know just sitting around and just counting the minutes until you do something. It's more like you just sit and just let yourself be, and something will come up in your head. At least that's what I got out of it. And so this book is actually the main reason why I stopped using social media. On every Monday and Tuesday, I just get off of all social media, like no Facebook or Twitter, just nothing. And it's actually inspired me to try to use my phone a lot less. So whenever on days I have work, I don't like from the moment I wake up at around 8 a.m. I just turn off my phone. Turn off my phone until around 1:45, which I can use for another hour until 2:30, and then I'll turn it off until around 9, and then that's it. That's it until I get home. In which case I'll plug it in. But this book has actually gotten me to like use my cell phone use my cell phone a lot less, and it talks about how you can be creative without social media and how addictive social media can be in everyday lives. And we have come so far from like the whole going to somebody's house and just hanging out and just watch movies, and instead, like today's standard, it's like go to somebody's house but use your phone for a long while. And so sometimes spacing out, it shows that even though spacing out could be a little bit more, I don't know, it could be not such a good thing as elementary school has made it out, has told me that it's not the best thing to do. Like you have to work and you have to pay attention. Sometimes you just need that time to space out. Sometimes you just need like the most creative people sometimes can actually space out and just unlock a part of them. Their unlock a part of their minds, you know? And like there are challenges here like getting off social media and just people watching for about an hour or so. And sometimes it shows that you don't even know that you are doing the whole checking your phone, and it shows that you can do it as often as you think. Like one person actually had an example. Just try like keep there's a track count on how many times they use their phone. They just count it, and then it's like they thought at first, yeah, I don't use my phone all that often. And then all of a sudden, like by the end of the day, it's like, oh, I use my phone even when I go on the elevator to work, like on my commute, like either checking the time on my phone. Like, yeah, it actually got me into thinking, yeah, I should probably use my phone a lot less in social media. And yeah, it got me to reading a lot more than usual. Like on a regular work day, I only use my phone like for about 2.5 hours at a time. So I'm trying to really cut it down, as opposed to like a couple years ago before I had a phone. Like it shows that phones and social media can take so much of our lives, and but sometimes you just need that outlet to just space out. You just need to space out. I don't know. I don't have much to say. Like it just goes into the psychology of like what people can do to unlock the creative side, and how social media is okay, but we've gotten so used to electronics in our hands that we kind of forget how it was before phones. So there's that. Um, I mean, at times my mind kind of wanders, which is fitting. This is a book I've read. This is my second time reading it. My mind kind of wanders because I didn't really care much for the studies in terms of like you know video like man, I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, that pretty much sums up why like I like it, because it spaces me out at times. I find this a really great book, but I'm just not used to the psychology part of it. So yeah, that's the case. I recommend this book. And another book which I've read this week was a book called Beast by Bree Spangler. Now, I think around last year or the year before, I've really gotten into fairy tale retellings. Like, um, fairy tale retellings, for those who don't know, those are like retellings for the modern day. Like, this is pretty much Beauty and the Beast in the modern day. And like, I really gotten into fairy tale retellings, and there hasn't been a bad one I've read yet. There's some books here or there that I didn't like, but you know what? I read them anyway because nostalgia factor from a year ago. And so this is Beauty and the Beast for a modern age, and it has a LGBTQ twist. Um, it's about this young man who is very hairy all over, and he's in high school, and then he falls off his roof. He goes to a hospital, and under his doctor and his mom, he goes to a support group that handles depression. I think this is my second time reading it. It handles depression and problems, and he comes across this young lady who is there for a reason that I don't want to spoil, because the summary of this book kind of spoiled it for me, but I just want to make it a surprise. And these two actually do get along. I mean, at times, like the main character is a bit of an asshole. Yeah, sure. Like I got my friend into reading this a couple of months ago, and she's like, "Oh my god, these some of these people are terrible." And like the main character isn't all that good. Like he's not that likable. And it's like, well, you kind of understand where he's coming from, because he's taller than the average person, because his dad was pretty much a giant like he was. Like he was pretty much like a giant like he was. His father died when the main character Nathan was around two. Like he was really small, so he doesn't remember all that much outside of a few videotapes that he had over the years. But I I understand why he could be unsympathetic at times, but that's because he lacks confidence, and at one point he wants to get surgery so he could like be a normal height, because he towers over people, and at the same time he's jealous of his best friend who is really good looking, and like he somehow said like he has the school up upon his hands, and in the meantime he seems less confident like compared to his friend, and at times he gets really frustrated at his friend because he thinks that his friend isn't helping him out. And it's really like you could see why, but it's more out of jealousy it's more out of envy. Like his friend doesn't have much of a good home life, so school is pretty much like how he can escape things. So again, I totally get why one could read this and see the main character is unsympathetic, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I can. Again, he's he's very self-conscious about how the way he looks, and then he meets this girl, and it's actually, to me anyway, it's actually a very sweet love story, even though it kind of like the third act breakup is something I really don't want in books in general or movies. But as a whole, it actually is really good, despite that third act breakup. Like there are some. It's actually a really funny book. It didn't make me feel sad for anybody because apart from the third act breakup, um, some of the characters seem a little bit unsympathetic at times. So and it causes the main character who you might think is unlikable get more unlikable. So yeah, but in the end, I actually do recommend this book. It's cringeworthy at times, yeah, sure, but that's that's pretty much how I felt at when I was in high school. Like he has to go to school like like a giant and with like he's pretty hairy. He's hairier than the average person, so he looks like an adult. And at one point, him and his girlfriend end up going to a liquor store, and he's like, "Aren't you gonna check me for ideas?" Like, "No, you're good." And the main character's like, but I'm like 15, and he's like, "Yeah, okay." Like the cashier, that's like, "Okay, that'll be $20," and so that's actually yeah. Sorry, I can't explain this properly, but I've been thinking about this over the years. Not over the years, but over the week. Like I've read this. This is my second time reading it. I found this last year, and if you like fairy tale retellings, I recommend this one. Like again, you can find better ones, but at the same time, give this a what. If if you don't have anything else, give this Beauty and the Beast modern day retelling a go, especially if you're into the LGBTQ community. So there's that. And another book that I've read this week is This Is Kind of an Epic Love Story by uh, Karen Callender. Now, I went to the library a couple of days ago and I just happened to see this on the shelf, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna read this. It's just there. Like I do that with a lot of books sometimes. Like anytime there's a book that looks like really good, I'm like, okay, like it's on the shelf, so I'm just gonna see it, and it's right in the public, so I'm just gonna take it, look at the spine, look at the summary, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so this is also an LGBTQ book, and it's about this young man who has the same name. Yeah, yeah, he does have the same name as the main character from the Beastly book, I think. Okay, that's kind of coincidental. Is it? Oh my god, I kind of figured. Hold on. No, no. This main character in here is named Dylan. This guy here is named Nathan. And so it's pretty much about this guy who this high school student is seeing a pattern now. This high school student who has his best friend who has feelings for his best friend who used to date, but then his best friend who is a girl, cheated on him with with a co-worker after a crush, and then they break up. He has some lingering feelings, sure, but you know, it's well, you can understand because like she cheated on him, and so one day he comes across this friend from the past, who is a guy, and he feels like there was some sort of what's it called unresolved feelings from what happened the before he moved. Like it focuses on like his feelings towards his old friend who moved like a couple of years prior, and then comes back to live with his mom. And all at the same time, like he's trying to find out how he can be a better screenwriter. Like he's submitting, what was it? Submitting, shoot, he's submitting a script or a script treatment to a school so he can go and get a scholarship. And so he has to juggle that and the fact that his dad died a few years prior. So every anniversary of his death, him, his sister, and his mom go through a grief because it feels like it happened so much like yesterday that his mom still has not been over it. And that's pretty much where some of the drama comes from, and it's actually pretty sad at times. And in terms of the love story, I actually find it really cute and heartwarming. And it's like the main character Nathan, does something to his old friend in the past, and that pretty much uh, confuses his friend, and then they don't meet for a couple of years. His friend comes back, and it's like, okay, what do I say now? I'm getting completely shy, and then like he's so scared that he ends up trying to sabotage his relationship with his friend because he doesn't believe that there are happy endings. And this one thankfully has an ending, a happy ending actually. So I don't want to say any more except the fact that there is a third act breakup. Actually, there's like two breakups technically, but that's why it's not full blown recommended. Like if you don't like third act breakups, you're gonna say, okay, getting it out of that way, okay, they're gonna break up and then get back together. But oh, something else happens, so we're gonna have to break up. And I'm like, okay, come on, you've done this twice. So it's like, but it actually is really funny and it's really heartwarming. Even though it gets hindered by those two breakups, and the main character is a bit of a constant asshole sometimes. Not constant, but a little bit of an asshole sometimes. And it gets irritating because he gets down on himself. Not like the main character from Beastly that I just talked about a few minutes ago. It's more like he's more he just doesn't want to get hurt. I mean, that's a little bit like the Beastly book, but he doesn't want to get hurt because of past experiences, like past relationships and whatever. So this is actually a pretty decent book. I'm sorry if I can't explain enough. I've tried to think this over. I've thought about this video over and over again. It's just that sometimes, like, the words get lost in translation. But I, I, this is a light recommend. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna read this again because there are parts of it that I really like reading, like when they finally get together and how good it makes me feel. But it's a light recommend, and I think that if you really like this book, you could read it again. I mean, it's more of a borrow in terms of like getting books. In terms of this, it's more like a borrow, not a full blown buy. A full blown buy. So yeah, there's that. And the last book I've read this week is Everyone Hang Out Without Me by and Other Concerns by Mindy Kaling. This is pretty much a series of memoirs that or a series of essays about Mindy and her childhood and how she got on The Office and her love life and this is pretty much like part biography and part essay or part biography, part journal. And I actually really can't wait to like read her other book like I did last year because this is actually really funny. Um, I think that she actually is a really good writer. Like you can see like how she writes, you can see her actually writing it in terms of like she writes it more like a journal. Like sometimes she's a little bit rambly at times, but it's like, yeah, that's pretty much like I can see why they chose have her as a character in The Office, even though like she has some similar qualities. Like she did like a comparison between her and her character from The Office, and like I feel like yeah, they're similar, but they're completely different. And she talks about her friendships in her childhood, how she still has her friends, how she lost contact with her friends, how she ended up on The Office, and how hard she worked. And she even talks about how hard it was to actually get, up there in terms of success. Like she started out as a page, but she wasn't very good page because like she was so interested in how Conan O'Brien was doing his show because she was a page for NBC, and it's like, okay, I know I have a job to do, but I'm so interested in Conan that I kind of neglected to do my errands, and I actually think that's really funny. And so she did stand up. She shared an apartment with a couple of close friends, and I think that this is actually a pretty decent biography slash journal because it just talks about like it also talks about her insecurities and at one point a fake funeral. Uh, I forgot the thing. What was it called? I forgot what it was called. Like a eulogy. Sorry, I can't. I had a brain fart. Uh, the creator of The Office at the end of the book does a fake eulogy, and it's actually one of the funniest. Like the whole book is funny, but this is what the eulogy part is one of the funniest um, things in the book. And this is an amazing recommend. Like I'm actually really into like even though people look at me and think like I just like horror movies or horror books because I wear all black and I don't smile. I actually have a warm and fuzzy feeling towards books like these because they make me laugh and they make me think like everybody has insecurities and everybody has their faults and flaws, but you know what, at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all people. I can't believe I said we are better than we think we are. And I actually think that what crap, I don't know how to explain this. I can't recommend this enough because it's linear. I think like the book is linear at first, but then it just goes like back and forth towards past and present. Like it goes kind of all over the place. Like this book came out in 2011, and it shows that like you can come a long way, and you don't have the most normal of starts in from childhood or show business or whatever. But you know what? At the end of the day, it shows that she puts a lot of effort into her work, and I just hope that one day I could actually, do like actually get better at what I do, you know, because I want to branch out into things, and I'm doing videos like this. So again, I recommend this book, and I recommend the other three books, although kind of an epic love story and Beastly is kind of a lighter recommend, but whatever. And Born and Brilliant is what it is, a self-help book. So if you like those, that one is good for you, especially if you space out a lot. Although spacing out during a book that talks about spacing out is kind of weird, but this is a book that I recommend the most. And so, yeah, this is actually a pretty damn good book, which I'll read again soon. So that's it for this week on books that I've read. I'm sorry if I um, didn't explain myself a lot. Um, but I'm working on a few other things. So yeah, I again sorry if I am a little bit rambly, but I will stop talking. So until then, thank you.